City Hall. Tonight is June 6th, and we would like to take this time to welcome everyone here. Before we officially start tonight's special City Council meeting dealing with our conference center bids, we'd call on Mr. Larry Henry to lead us in prayer. Then after that, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we'd just like to say thank you for getting us here safe and sound this evening. We ask that you continue to bless our families, continue to bless our servicemen and women here and abroad, and also continue to help guide us in decision making as a community, as a city, as we continue to move our city forward and grow. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point in time, we'll have roll call, please.
Branch, Bray,
Here.
Carroll,
Here.
Graham,
Here.
Henry,
Here.
Hussey,
Here.
Mahalovich,
Here.
Prather,
Here.
Schulte,
Here.
Scribner.
Here. By the way, Jim Branch cannot make it tonight. They have the car tent sale, so if anyone in the audience needs a quick car, I'm sure Twig would appreciate that sale. Well, first of all, welcome here. I mean, it's been almost 80 years to get to this point, and hopefully we'll get past the goal line here in the next few months. But as your mayor, on behalf of the mayor and the council, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight to hear this. And first, I'd like to introduce our facilitator for this event, Mr. Charles Johnson IV from Johnson Consulting, and he's based out of Chicago, Illinois. Charles, welcome.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to serve you all in this very interesting and important endeavor. Our goal is to serve as an independent third party to help go through the information, make sure everything is apples to apples, and also then provide follow-up requirements for each of the proposers to make sure we have apples to apples information so the final basis exists for you all to make a wise decision. The other thing we will work very hard on doing is making sure that the return on investment that you all are putting into the project is being able to be delivered upon by the development teams that are going to be presenting tonight. We have two development teams tonight. The first one is Farmers. They are going to give a half an hour presentation, and then there will be a 15-minute time window for questions and answers by yourselves, as well as questions that we may have as well. So we're serving as your eyes and ears for this project, and we will be very helpful to you, I believe. After that, the next presentation is by Earhart, and their presentation will be also for 30 minutes. And our goal, bidders and presenters, is to really understand your project, what your requests are from the city, what obstacles and opportunities that you see, and then let us really understand the information that you are providing. So with that, I'm going to start, let the first presenter start setting up, and then we'll take it from there. And we will be keeping the time on them. The first presenter is for 30 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Ready for us?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. That's good. If we could go ahead and distribute the PowerPoints in hard form. We love technology, but in the event we have an issue, we don't want it to slow us down. Yeah.
So this top one is the pointer. Yeah.
Charles, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for being here. We appreciate the role that you have in this process. City Council, Mayor, City Administrator, thank you very much for this opportunity to come out and present to you all tonight. We feel like we've got some valuable content, and we hope to get to the question and answer session as soon as possible. We want to share with you the work that we've done, but also have adequate time to answer any questions that you have. My name's Rob Kingsbury with Farmer Holding Company. This is Kirk Farmer. You'll hear from him in a moment. What I want to start out doing is give you a little perspective on how we ended up here tonight. I can tell you a year ago, prior to the purchase of Capitol Mall, if you'd have told me that we were going to be here tonight, I would have probably laughed at you, because it just wasn't even on our radar screen. But through a series of events, we had the opportunity to purchase the mall. We were excited to do so, being members of this community. I'll give you a little background on that acquisition. We found out about it in November. There were 10 groups interested in purchasing it. That quickly was brought down to 3 and then 2, ourselves and a purchaser out of New Jersey, with very different philosophies on owning real estate. The reason why that's relevant is because we are long-term holders. We intend to recognize the value in a piece of real estate and build upon that value. This buyer out of New Jersey was the opposite, and we know that from other projects he's been involved in the past. His goal would have been to extract as much value as quickly as possible and then move on in a relatively short period of time, 3 to 5 years. We intend to do the very same thing with the hotel and the convention center, and that is capitalize on the funds that you all have created for the developer, which is a tremendous asset, and build on it going forward with the idea of being a long-term holder of that real estate. So I'll give the microphone to Kirk now. He's going to give you a little bit of a background on our company and why we feel like we're qualified to be in front of you tonight.
Thanks, Rob. So I think it's important for us to describe to you all how we got here from the start. My Uncle Bud is in the audience. My dad couldn't be here tonight, but they're the cornerstone of the company, and I've had the good fortune of working for them for the past 10 years. They started in 1972. They bought a little piece of ground across the river and started Capital Sand Company. There were just 2 employees for many years. They were the loadermen, they were the salesmen, they were the secretary, and they were the billing office, which was a pad, a telephone, and a box on a telephone pole. But since then, they've reinvested everything they've made year in and year out and have grown their company substantially. Today, we're in 7 contiguous states, and we have 750 employees. However, the construction material business can be very cyclical, and it's very seasonal. And so a good reason for us, or for Bud, to get into real estate was the topsy-turvy nature of the construction material business. So they realized that early on, and they wanted to get into something that was a little more stable. They started developing real estate approximately 30 years ago. Over the course of the past 30 years, they've developed several million square feet of office, industrial, warehouse, and residential, and lastly, commercial retail. My first project for me was a commercial retail development, and I really cut my teeth on the challenges of developing real estate in Jefferson City back in 2006 and 2007. We took a hole in the ground next to Missouri Boulevard and filled it approximately 40 feet, added a lane to Missouri Boulevard, and built a 4-lane road and called it Stone Ridge Village and Stone Ridge Parkway. We now have Kohl's, Dick's Sporting Goods, PetSmart, Buffalo Wild Wings, GameStop, and we did a similar development on the other side, and we have Menards down there. In 2015, we plan to add another major retailer. It's the worst kept secret in town, but I think we're all pretty proud of that, and it's been a long time coming. But what was really important about learning what we learned in 2006 is we had to have a good team. I really didn't know what I was doing. We had a great team around me, and it really helped us execute the project. Similarly, we had to put together a good team for the mall. When we came to Bud 7 months ago, the first thing he says is, how are we going to operate this thing? Well, we had to have a team. We found a good operator. Well, I think that transitions well into the team we've put into place to execute the hotel and convention center. So I'd like to start with our quarterback and head coach. And
There we go.
there we go. So we found a group, Patterson Real Estate Advisory Group, and they're really the leaders of our team. They have been on all sides of the hospitality business. They've owned, they've developed, they've operated, they've managed, they've financed, and currently they're advising, and that's what they're doing for us. They've done about $12 billion in transactions, and so far they've proven to be a valuable resource. Part of that team is Advent PDS, or the Construction Management and Project Management Service Company that comes along with Advent. They've got 25 years of experience. They've done over 25 hotels, 5 Hiltons, 3 Marriotts, 3 Hyatts, a number of boutique hotels. For our civil engineering, a great team, CMPS. I think we all know who they are. Mike Bates and Paul Sampson have been invaluable to me and to our company in helping us get through the civil challenges of developing in Jefferson City. They really helped me in the Stone Ridge project. I know they're a great service to the city as well. Polsinelli is our transaction legal team. Our group is out of Kansas City. They've got a number of offices across the country. We really hope that as we move down the road, that we have an opportunity to sit down and Polsinelli can be in the room to really explore all of the opportunities that we could look at to making this project happen, because we really feel like they're experts in that area. Focus, to round it out, they are the FF&E, OS&E. That stands for Furniture, Fixtures, and Equipment, Operating Supplies and Equipment. They really finish out the inside of the hotel and make sure we have, or the operator has everything it needs to operate. They've done over 300 projects, from Ritz-Carltons to Hyatts to W's to Hiltons to Marriott's to your standard Best Western. I mean, they've just been up and down the line. They're a quality company as well. I think the most important piece of our team that we can add is the hotel operator. What we've done to date is we've gone out and we've talked to 3 nationally recognized and quality hotel and convention center operators. This is probably the most important piece that we can add. We don't have a group picked, but we're confident that all 3 can see this. If we're selected, we think that all 3 could operate this. We've been dealing probably more with Hospitality Ventures. They've been helping us with our pro formas, our budgets, to understand what the economics actually look like. That sums up our team. Rob's going to talk about the site.
I'd like to take a few moments just to talk about some of the site characteristics and why we feel like the site itself is a site worth considering. This is a view from Highway 50 as to what the project would look like on the right. You can see the Hotel Convention Center. Behind it, you can see the mall. In a few moments, we'll see exactly how that lays out on the site looking downward. So the site plan is a great tool. As you can see, two things are worth highlighting here. The second, we'll talk about in a minute. The first one is on the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see the hotel and the convention center laid out on an out parcel that we have. What jumps off the page when I look at this is the amount of parking that we have out there. Parking is either expensive or very expensive, but we feel like existing surface parking is where we want to be. Kirk's going to get into numbers here in a little bit, but we feel like every dollar is going to count on this project, and if we can save money on existing parking, we want to do that. We currently have 2,381 spaces at the mall. Through development of other parcels of ground that are currently not developed, we can add another 1,700 parking spaces. That'll be 4,081 spaces available for the mall and the Hotel Convention Center. The last thing we want to do is have parking get in the way of attracting the best conventions that the state of Missouri has to offer. The next highlight I'd like to make is on the site. The site as it sits is very level. It's ready to develop. As I don't need to tell anyone here, Missouri is very hilly, and sometimes site work, getting the actual real estate ready to develop upon, can use up a lot of dollars. We're ready to go as far as having level ground out there. Elevations. We've been really concerned about elevations over the last couple weeks as we've watched the Missouri River rise. And the last thing we want to do is have any kind of water or flooding get in the way of a convention we're going to have. That's not going to happen on our site. It's a high enough elevation flooding is not an issue. Access, excellent access and visibility off of Highway 50. Easy to find for folks coming from out of town. Easy to exit the highway and get back on. There's also several ingress and egress points around the property. So that morning commute to the convention or that drive home, if they're not staying on site, you're not going to spend any time in a traffic jam in the parking lot. Now, I'll transition a little bit on something that I like to think about in the conventions that I go to, and that is having some fun. You go to a convention because you want to learn about the subject matter that convention is about, and you also want to meet other people that have similar interests that you do. But if you have some spare time, you want to not just hang out in your hotel room, you want to do something. We have plenty of restaurant options in and around the Capitol Mall. Within 1 mile or less, we've got 15 existing restaurants. We also plan in the next few years, we've got some awesome pad sites that we plan to develop, bring the latest and greatest restaurants to Jefferson City. So that tenant mix is even going to grow. Shopping on site and within a half a mile of the prospective site, and I'll just use this real quick. Our prospective site is right here, okay? Right behind the Hardee's sign. So within a half mile of that, you have tenants like, or retailers like Sears, Dillard's, JCPenney, Hy-Vee, Walgreens, American Eagle, Bath & Body Works, The Buckle, Zales, K Jewelry, and TJ Maxx is across the street, as well as Old Navy's across the street, Petco, and Barnes & Noble, all within a half mile. Excellent shopping options. Entertainment. If someone wants to catch a movie, you're less than half a mile. You can walk to the movie theater, Goodrich 8, showing all the newest movies. If you want to exercise, Wilson's Gym on site. If you want to walk to the YMCA, it's less than a half a mile. You can utilize the YMCA. And the last thing that I'll highlight, and I think this is probably the most important, because this is going to be a state-of-the-art hotel and convention center. We are going to get our fair share of the absolute best conventions that go on in the state of Missouri. The last thing we want to do is have overflow hotel rooms hold us back. We're going to fill the hotel that we build, but it's also nice to know that we got 300 rooms within 2 miles of our location. And I think this map does a great job illustrating that. So we plan to book the hotel we're going to build for every convention we have, and we're going to have rooms to really do those big conventions that we want to chase. So with that, I'll let Kirk do some of the heavy lifting and run through the project scope and tell us how we're going to get it done.
Thank you. It's not moving.
There we go.
Okay, I think before I get started on the project scope, I think it's important to note that the most important takeaway I want to have this evening is that after this evening, I think it would be very beneficial if we have this process be open and collaborative. We want to be transparent and we want to be cooperative. This is a very important deal for us because we live in this community. So over and above us winning, we want to see this happen for Jefferson City because it is a big deal for us. Like the mayor said, we've been waiting for this for 80 years, and it is a lot more important for us to see the community advance than it is for us to win a project. So I think that's just important for me to set the tone on the RFP. So we think we have the best spot, but our analysis shows some concerns. When the RFP came out, we did some budgeting. We got together with HVMG and Patterson, and we put together a pro forma. Some of the concerns that we have. 200 rooms, we are afraid may be too many rooms for the marketplace today. When we come into a market in the materials business, we don't want to take market share away. In the same way, we feel like if we throw a 200-room hotel in this market based on the ADRs and the occupancy, we are a little bit worried with the information that we have at this point that 200 rooms may cannibalize the competitive set or the other hoteliers in town. And that is the last thing that we want to do. Another concern that we have is the 2008 PKF study given to us does not accurately reflect the downturn in the economy. It was produced in March of 2008, and as we all know, it was probably more like the end of 2008 that we all started to be affected by the economic downturn. So when you really dive into the numbers, you can start to see where they're projecting a continuing climb in ADR and occupancy, and what actually happened was a correction. So that's a concern of ours. We also, okay, so another concern is on the convention side, the revenue side. In the PKF study in March of 2008, it showed convention center revenue being far higher than what our operators that operate convention centers in other markets of similar size get. So I don't know if I explained that properly, but basically the study says one number and our proposed operators are saying it is far less. So that is probably one of the biggest hurdles that we're all going to have to overcome when we get down the road to figure out what is the appropriate size and structure for this opportunity. So the requested 200-room, 40,000 square foot conference center has an estimated project cost of just north of $40 million. Even with the generous $9 million lodging tax, in our estimation, based on today's average daily rates and occupancy in Jefferson City, we don't think a project is feasible. With that being said, we aren't willing to give up. We want to keep moving. So we asked our advisors to give us an alternative that we could at least present to the city that would work with the $9 million. And their answer was 127 room, 20,000 square foot conference center, Courtyard Marriott Select Service Hotel. As you can see, this is where we have it, and this is a basic model of a 127 room Courtyard Marriott. We estimate this project to cost roughly $25 million. We have a letter from Marriott that is very interested in being in this market. They have supported our site. If we are to win through this process, we think that is the right brand and flag for this marketplace. So what I can do, this Marriott would be very similar floor plan to the Marriott that is on 63 in Columbia. You've got your Port Cachet just off the entrance on Country Club, where you come in, you have reception desk.
Go over here for the camera.
Okay. You've got the reception desk here, a barista here, a little lobby here. You've got some rooms on the west wing with a pool and exercise facility, an appropriately placed kitchen that services the convention meeting rooms. Those would be on the east wing. Here you have the second floor, basic floor plan, third and fourth floors, really a very similar floor plan to the project on 63. With that being said, before I wrap it up, I know you guys are going to have a lot of questions. This is a basic outline. We want this to be a collaborative effort. We really thank the mayor, the administrator, the whole council, and all of the staff as public servants to take on a difficult project. We know that it takes leadership to get this done. We understand that. We care more about the success of the convention center than we do about us winning the project. I just want to make that perfectly clear. We want this project to happen for the city first and foremost. Rob, you have anything?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Just in conclusion, thank you very much for your time. I think the only thing that I would add is that we hope that this is a beginning of the conversation from here forward. We look forward to sharing any and all of the information that we've gathered and paid to acquire to this point to not only the council and the city leadership, but also the other developer that is pursuing the opportunity, or anyone else that might come along after tonight. Because no matter where it ends up, we want it to happen in Jefferson City, and we're looking forward to helping the process. So with that, we'll take any questions that you all might have. I think we've got a little bit of time, and we'll turn it over to you.
Well, guys, thank you very much for that presentation. We'll open it up for questions from council members first. I'm sorry, Nathan, what'd you say, sir? Bob?
You used the label select when you were describing what makes a select a select. What is it? I mean, I've been in the Courtyards by Marriott, but could you explain
Yeah,
that?
it's an excellent question. So each hotel flag or brand has several series of hotels, and they come into a market, they analyze the demographics and a variety of other statistics to identify which one of their brands is going to go in that market. The Marriott is the Courtyard is the one for this market and within the Marriott brand, and that's the one we've pursued. The reason why they call it Select, I'll have to get back to you on, but the key is that the Courtyard and Marriott brand is the right size and the right makeup for this market.
Typically, can I follow up with that? Typically, they do not have food service other than what, a morning breakfast,
That's
I
correct.
think.
Right.
And it's like a buffet style breakfast.
Right.
So the kitchen would be for the banquet or the conference center as opposed to providing food service for.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's an important question because you spend a lot of dollars in the kitchen, so you want to put that in the right spot. And that's why we have confidence that the location that Kirk pointed out is going to help to not only service the hotel, but also put on the top-notch convention
And
dinners.
could you maybe you were talking about the difference between the projected, were you talking about revenues, Kirk?
Yes.
Or what? Okay, projected revenues and what your operators have actually experienced in a market this size. Would you be willing to talk about what that difference might be?
It's a few $1 million
Really? Over the course of a year? or-
annually.
Annually.
I believe the information I gleaned in the PKF study was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the food and beverage estimated $4.8 million in revenue. And now that would be, they were proposing a full service hotel, so that some of that revenue would be going towards the room service,
Sure.
but not much.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Henry?
From a marketing strategy, and from you guys' perspective, what do you think would bring conferences here to Jefferson City? How would you go about it? Would you be a part of that process as far as marketing, a marketing strategy and bringing conferences here? What would want to bring people here for a conference? I think that's one of the bigger questions that people have here around town. What would want to bring people here for major
Yeah,
conferences?
that's a good question. Go take it.
Well, I think, firstly, we would not be the marketers. That is not what we do. We don't market the mall either. So we hire best-in-class operators to come in, analyze the market, and spend a lot of marketing dollars to get people to choose this market over any other market in Missouri.
I mean, to piggyback on that, not only we're the state capital, which is not worth ignoring, but also we're geographically centrally located. So anyone that needs to draw from both Kansas City and St. Louis, it's very easy to get to without having to get on an airplane, which limits your cost. So I think you have to capitalize on that along with the expertise of what Kirk has talked about.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me say it again. Okay.
Ralph?
A 20,000 square foot banquet room. Presently, there's I think 11,000 square feet down at the Plaza Hotel, and they maxed out at about 800 there. So I guess 20,000 square feet would you could seat more than that. 1,200 maybe.
I guess it depends on the event and.
Mm-hmm. If rounds of 10,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
example.
I think what's more important is that we're not stuck on the 20,000 square foot number. We want to have a more interactive dialogue moving forward to discuss what exactly is the right size for this market.
That's right.
They felt like 20,000 square feet was all this market needed. Now, if we can somehow show them that we need more than that, then I think we all need to explore it.
And we can build that into our model and then see where the numbers fall.
With, well, even locally, we already have banquets that have outgrown what we can presently serve, is what I've understood. So the 20,000 square feet would probably would help us grow into that larger banquet room. But those banquets, I'm thinking, may not occupy the hotel rooms. Now, if you bring people in, so there's the local market that would use that extra space that's not now available in town. But then also the conferences that would come in from out of town, with 126 rooms, you would be relying on overflow with the hotels in the immediate area.
That's correct.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to know or have an idea of how much of the revenue would come in from the local market using the conference room without the hotels versus how much of the income, the revenue that would be generated would be from the conferences coming in from out of town and using overflow?
Yeah, I mean, another good question. I think we built the basis of our report on the PKF study that you all nicely provided us. I think another market study as we go forward would be money well spent, and I think that those are some of the things that we can begin to explore.
Okay.
All right, anything else, Rob?
No.
All right, thank you. Rick, you're okay? Anyone else down here to my left? I have a question that comes up from time to time. You're a little farther west than your competitor, so to speak. Capitol's downtown. How do you look to possibly overcome that?
Well, there is public transportation. We know that is not the best fit, but by and large, Jefferson City, we are 5 miles from the Capitol. We're really not very far. And, I think we all live here. We understand that, if we feel like most of the revenue generated needs to walk to the Capitol every day, then, we can take a look at that. But we're not seeing it in our analysis. There's going to be people that are driving to Jefferson City to have a convention, and that is where the meat of their stay is. It's not necessarily to be in the convention and then walking up to the Capitol. I'm not sure how you could analyze how many times somebody that's coming in that needs to be in the Capitol City needs to actually be in the Capitol building.
I think I would piggyback off that. If I could cut the mall in half and move it downtown, I'd do that in a second.
Best of both worlds.
But we can't do that. Unfortunately, the mall is where it is, and our site is where it is. So
It doesn't float?
It doesn't float.
Okay.
But that is a realistic concern, and one that I've thought a lot about. And I think the way you answer that is two ways. We got to provide transportation for people that are needing to be shuttled back and forth to the Capitol, because we want to get every single Missouri government convention at our new convention center. But in addition to that, we want to go after all of the other conventions that have nothing to do with the state government. So that's where we're really going to focus our time, because we want every single day to be occupied in that convention center.
Even thinking about the Capitol's open January through May,
Yep,
so to
that's
speak.
right.
So for the most part, Mr. Prather, thank you, gentlemen, for answering.
Based on your proposal, do you see any need now or maybe possibly in the future of any subsidy from the city to help you run that operation?
That's a good question. We would like to discuss that when we know more what the city actually wants out of their convention center. If it's just going to be a 20,000 square foot, there's a potential that that's not the case. But I can't definitively sit here and tell you today that our model works without any subsidy. I can tell you that a 40,000 square foot convention center does need a subsidy.
In the 200 rooms, and I think we've tried to paint two pictures. We didn't want to show up here tonight and not be able to adequately discuss what you all proposed. But then we also wanted to provide an alternative. And is the right size and the right project somewhere in between, 127 rooms and 20,000 feet and what you propose? It probably is. There's just more elements to the puzzle that we need to explore together. to really right-size exactly how big the project is. So we're hoping as we go forward that there will be a degree of flexibility from the city leadership so that we can have those discussions. And if there's not, you know, we just hope the project is built someplace.
Thank you, Rick. Anyone else to Mike? Carrie?
Thank you. I know this project, you've mentioned it has access to a lot of restaurants and things to do when they come here. Is there anything you would say that would be of character, that when they come to Jefferson City that might be unique, that might be a draw? I'm just wondering what the draw might be. For example, some of these restaurants are very recognizable, but they're in all major cities. So what would be your wow factor, your draw, like that's going to make them maybe choose us over another community because it is maybe not near our capital? So what would you suggest?
And then you can tell me if I miss. Yeah, I think that we've got to capitalize on all of the natural entertainment options in Jefferson City. And fortunate enough, you know, it's I think 7 minutes for me to go to one side of town to the other if I go the right way. So that offers us a lot of opportunity to shuttle people around to the various aspects of the city, because we do have some great culture, rich in history, because it is the state capital, and we want to capitalize on that. I think this goes in the category of where our consultants are really going to prove their worth, and that is to analyze our market and determine what people want to do when they come to this market. What do we have to give? And then we'll build our program around that.
Bob, and then I think we're about ready to follow up, and I'll turn it over to Charles.
I have a suggestion. That mic is cordless, and it'll make it more comfortable if you just pull it out of there and hold it in front of you.
Next time we'll do that.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for. I'm sorry, Sean, you're the last one.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. With the investment that Farmer Holding Companies has made in real estate development over the last several years, and specifically with the purchase of the Capitol Mall and the investments that you're looking to make moving forward, where do you see Jefferson City in 20 years? From an economic standpoint, why did you purchase the mall? What do you see there that in 20 years, what's your vision for the city, and what impact does this conference center have on that vision 20 years down the road?
Well, first off, it has a big impact. That's why we want it to happen so bad, and that's why we are always on the side of progress for the city. We, like we said, want this to happen, and in 20 years, we are so heavily invested in this community. We are just hoping that the demand is starting to build to where we can finally hit a growth spurt. I think we all get frustrated that the city doesn't seem to grow quite as fast as other communities around us, but we're all hopeful, and we've put our dollars into it, and so we're putting our, I guess, you know, we can't be any more hopeful than the investments that we've made. So, you know, we're as eager as you are to take risks in this community to help it grow.
I have one last follow-up question, and either one of you can answer this. Being the mayor and the council, we hear a lot of things from different projects and buy local, so to speak. What rough percentage of this project do you think would be local labor and come from local suppliers?
As much as possible. I mean, we are going to draw from the absolute best consultants we can bring in, but every piece of this thing is going to start, we're going to look around and say, how can we get this done using local people?
Great. Well, guys, thank you for being here. I'll turn it back over to Charles for any questions he might have in the next step.
Great. Just a couple questions.
Sure.
First, how healthy is the mall overall?
You want to take it?
How healthy is the mall economically? Is it?
Economically,
Yep.
the mall is not as healthy as we would all like it to be. We have a turnaround plan, and we are executing it. We have a lot of great momentum, and we plan to have it fully leased in just a few years.
Okay, thank you. The proposed plan, are they expandable for terms of hotel rooms? I've worked a lot on hotels on malls, and sometimes they put a residence inn next door or something like that. But has the design contemplated an expansion in the future?
I think the
As a
pull
possibility?
the floor plan and show them the outlots.
When we initially got the RFP, we wanted to throw this right smack down in the front center of the mall and put the conference center in the mall because we did have some vacancy. We realized that there was going to be a lot of challenges in doing that, and so we felt like putting it out there was the cleanest and best fit right now.
We would agree with that.
There is a as you can see, a lot of room to grow.
And that's why the parking is so key
Yeah.
for us, because we've got ground not only to expand.
Sorry, Rob, microphone. It's not necessarily for us, it's for
That's
people at
great.
home.
So that's why we're so excited about the existing parking out there and the land that exists, because not only do we have land to add parking, but if the demand was there for additional hotels or buildings, we can build them and still have enough room to park.
Okay. From a financial standpoint, it's your thought that with the $9 million contribution to the project, if you built 127 rooms, generally you don't need any other type of resource base to support the project?
It's our initial estimate, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to, not parking or anything like that at this juncture. Okay. Quick question about the team. PDS, are they your contractor or are they your more owner's rep?
They are really a project management team that works with Patterson to help on the budgeting.
Are they integrated with Patterson?
They
or
are.
Okay.
They're not the same company, but they have not the same company, but they do a lot of projects together.
Okay. And then Focus, are they part of or is there an integration there, or they just, again, work together?
They have a relationship with Patterson. They're not the same company.
Got it. Okay, because one, Focus had Hardin in the name.
And I think Hardin is intertwined in several of those team members.
And that's Hardin Construction?
That's right, based out of
Good
Atlanta.
company. Yeah, very familiar with them. All right. So you told us who prepared your operating budget. So next steps, we're going to take stock of the materials that we've heard today, take stock of the questions that were asked by the council, and come back to you all with a list of questions so we can get clarification, and then we'll start moving towards a development agreement and those types of things. But I think that, we are definitely going to be in a collaborative mode.
That's great.
All right.
And
So
we
that's
want to
our
be collaborative.
anticipation.
Collaborative and transparent too. So we want to share everything with you and the council that we've acquired to help you do your job.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Elizabeth? All right, I think that answers the mayor.
All right, and actually, we are 24 seconds just over time, so we're doing great altogether. It's 6:15. We will take a break for 15 minutes, let the Earhart Group set up, and we will be back at 6:30. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being
Mayor.
in our community.
Appreciate it.
You want this one?
Get you guys started. So who are you working with at Spire? I've done a lot of work with Lane Hospitality. They're out of Chicago.
Yeah. We